What's good, YouTube? Or Storm here, coming at you guys with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Battlin boxer support. If you guys have followed the channel for a long time, you realize it was probably one of the first videos I uploaded to the channel was the Battlin boxer deck profile. It was probably the first semi I wouldn't say consistent, but semi built playable deck that I built. Got it from a friend of mine. I still have some of the cards, but I haven't really pretty much I haven't picked up the deck since I had an Ignite build back in I think it was 2015 or 16. I don't remember, but the problem the deck's always had is that Yugioh is such a powerful is a decent boss monster, but you basically most of the time playstyle of Battlin boxers, there's not much you could change about it. That it was put Yugioh on the board, put some floodgates like Kaiser Coliseum on the board, and just sit on Yugioh. And some of the new support cards kind of helped the deck a little bit, the ones we got in World Superstars, but they didn't really fix the primary problem the deck always had, which is that Yugioh is a very powerful card. Maybe not by modern standards, obviously, but for 2014, it's a pretty strong card. Sitting on that, it got extremely power creeped, so it wasn't exactly an effective strategy, particularly when we've got things like Shaddolls, and then especially the second wave of support and new challenge, we got Cleaforts as well. It was just too slow to really keep up at that point. So, but yeah, I think this new support is pretty cool. So I haven't super duper read these cards super carefully, but we'll go ahead and get straight into it. So the first support card is a burning Battlin boxer uppercutters. So it has two effects. You can only use each of the effects once per turn, only once that turn. It's normal special summon. You can add a Battlin boxer or a counter trap from your deck to your hand except itself. So immediately right off the bat, this searches Spark, and then special summon itself. And that immediately gives you, and not only that, Spar does have an effect that skips your battle phase, but if you're going first, you can still special summon it going first, and going first, it's not that big of a deal, obviously, and you can still special summon it main phase 2 as well. So, but yeah, this right away, it's immediately summon it, search, great starter card, no stupid restrictions on it, great effect, absolutely fantastic. It's going to be a 3 of. Second effect already. So if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can activate one of these effects, special summon Battlin boxer monster from your graveyard, except itself, or set a counter trap from your graveyard. Absolutely fantastic card. Minimum 3 of, no debating. Not only does it have a great, if it just had the first effect, it would still be the 3 of, but the fact that it has that special summon effect too is just fantastic. It does have to be sent by a card effect, but you have things like I believe Yugioh will still trigger this if you detach it, which is pretty cool. But also the fact that it's such a good starter card, but on top of that, it can also grab something back from the graveyard when it's sent there by card effect. So if you send it, for example, with something like Battlin boxer Headgeared, it will then give you a special summon from the graveyard. So it's not only like a great starter card, it can also be an extender as well. It's adding the counter trap is kind of interesting. It has some targets here. They do have a new counter trap, which we'll get to in a moment. It does search Jolt Counter, but Jolt Counter is restricted to only the battle phase. That's always been the problem with that card, and there's not a ton. The only thing Jolt Counter I think nowadays is possibly going to negate is evenly matched. So I guess if you're scared of evenly matched, you could definitely, if you're playing this deck after the support comes out, you could definitely slap one in your side deck. But for now, I just don't think. I think the obvious target is the new counter trap, which we'll get to in a moment. So the second card here is Battlin boxer Chief Second. You can only activate use the first effect this card once per turn. So when your opponent monster declares an attack, control a fire and/or warrior monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do negate the attack, then banish one monster on the field till the end phase. And then the second effect, you can normal summon one Battlin boxer monster in addition to your normal summon or set. So the first effect is basically like an improved version of Battlin boxer Veil. Veil doesn't quite have that restriction on it as much, but you're playing Battlin boxers, you're going to have a warrior monster on the board. One thing that comes to mind with this actually is it's not actually a bad target to search off of Isolde, because Isolde has that restriction on the card you search where you can't use it, but for this particular situation. It's not a bad card to simply have in your hand. It's a hand trap, so to speak. So, like, this wouldn't be a terrible card, I think, to add off of Isolde. And the additional normal summon is also fantastic, so it's also not a bad card to special summon with... I think considering how normal summon dependent Battlin Boxers can be, I definitely think this card could probably be a 3 of as well. I'd have to do some testing on that, but I think if you're playing Battlin Boxers and you're not under the restrictions that some of the cards lock you into Battlin Boxers for the turn, so but if you're not under that restriction, you can go into Isolde. So, like, and this is definitely not a bad card to search off at Isolde, because it actually has an effect in hand that you can use on your opponent's turn. So tentatively I would say this guy's a 3 of. And then this one was actually kind of interesting. So this is Battlin Boxer Promoter. So you can only use it's 3 effects, but you can only use 1 per turn. And when you activate any of the effects, you're going to be locked into Battlin Boxer monsters when you use this. So that could be an issue in some situations. But when you look at these effects, you'll understand why that restriction's there. So if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Obviously, it's like having a special summon itself is always great. But if you contribute this card, special summon to 2 Battlin Boxers with different names from your deck, except Battlin Boxer Promoter. So right off the bat, this is fantastic. I'd have to look through the archetype again. A lot of their effects trigger on normal summon, but the fact that it doesn't negate the effects could be relevant in some situations. But having a lone fire for 2 monsters is pretty fantastic. I think. And the other thing is you can do your non-Battlin Boxer things and then special summon, and then maybe special summon this. It's for the turn actually. So and you can banish this card from your graveyard, and it increases the level. So this level increase is pretty relevant for summoning the Chaos rank we're about to get to. I hope they still have some. I think they have like 1 card left, so I'm hoping they get their own themed rank up spell. At some point would be nice, but this one, it's on paper, I think it's good. I'm just not a fan of a lot of the restrictions on this card. They definitely need to be there with how powerful these effects are. You don't want warriors using this card to get straight into Isolde. So, but I do on paper I like this card, but the problem is the restrictions, and I don't know if I like that. Then we have a new Chaos, number 79. This is so it requires 3 level 5 monsters. So that's kind of what Promoter can help facilitate getting this guy out. It's not that difficult, especially with some of these new cards, to get 3 level 4s on the board. But like a lot of Chaos, it has an effect when you have Nova Kaiser underneath it. So that's obviously what you want to do in a lot of situations. But it's not hard to hard summon this, assuming you have access to Promoter in some way. And then it gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. Not super relevant effect, but it kind of lines up with its other form. Once per turn, if your opponent would special summon a monster, you can attach 2 materials to this card. If you do, negate the summon. If you would, destroy that monsters. So it's just basically like a solemn warning on legs. The fact that it's always a big thing when it hits a mass special summon, in case you run into something like pendulums or something that summons a bunch of stuff at once. This hits all of them, and that's always always good for me, in my opinion. I think this is pretty good. That's a pretty good effect. It covers something Battlin Boxers don't have in their current state. And it says if this card has a Nova Kaiser underneath it, it gains effect. Turn when your opponent attack is declared involving your Battlin Boxer monster, your opponent's monster. Send 1 Battlin Boxer from your hand or deck to the graveyard and attach that opponent's monster as material. It's completely non-targeting removal, but it requires an attack. The fact that it's both. So you can make this attack and then take your opponent's monster, which is great. It's great non-targeting removal. It does require you to attack. But it also means that while it's out, and if you have any other Battlin Boxer monsters out, your opponent can't really attack you while this is up. They're going to have some other form of removal for it. Otherwise, it's going to snatch, assuming Nova Kaiser's underneath it. The problem is that currently Battlin Boxers don't have easy access to rank up spells, and I'm hoping they get their own themed rank up spell at some point that's easily accessible. But this card could be really good if they get that. But I would have preferred they let you just stack it on top of Nova Kaiser, but Nova Kaiser is kind of generic, so I see why they did it this way. But yeah, and I think it's a pretty good card. I just think it needs to be, they need to find it maybe a little easier to summon. So then now we have a new rank 4 actually, which is Battlin Boxer's primary level. Obviously, they're mostly level 4s. So you have 2 level 4 monsters, so super duper generic, and this could be a problem when you look at this effect. It says you can only use this effect once per turn. If this card is special summoned, so this is a key one, you can take one level 4 or lower fire warrior monster, or one Battlin Boxer spell and trap from your deck to hand, either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Absolutely busted, amazing effect. Like this is basically like Overraptor for level 4 or lower fire warriors, and it searches the spells and traps as well. Like this is just, couldn't ask for more. It searches spirits, which is great because it gives you another extender. Because you can detach, search spirit, and then special summon the same monster that you detached for this effect, and then special summon whatever you had in your hand. So then from there you have easy access to You're going to have 2 rank 4s on board, which means you can get to F-Zero, the Utopic Dragon, with just making this card. It's absolutely fantastic. Like, I think this could, the fact that it triggers on special summon is big too, because there's obviously cards in the archetype such as Battlin Boxer Spirits, Battlin Boxer Switch Hitter, and any other extenders you might be playing with it'll trigger and get its search effect again. So that is obviously really, really strong. And then it does have a quick effect. You can detach one material from your any XYZ monster, and if you do, your opponent can't target Battlin monsters you control with card effects this turn. Definitely fills, it's not an amazing effect, but it definitely fills a void Battlin Boxers always have had. I've had to play everything from Lance to Skill Prisoner. People played Safe Zone just because, Bleed Yoke is very weak to targeting effects. Things like number 11 Big Eye, which was big obviously because Dragon Rulers were around when this deck was playable. So it definitely fills a void the deck needs. It's not a fantastic effect by modern standards, but it does cover a base that the deck needs. I think this card might be a tad bit too generic, but it's also possible Konami did that on purpose. So, but I do think the card's fantastic. Like, this would definitely be something you should be playing if you're going to be playing the deck. Now we have the new counter trap. So we have we have Battlin Boxer Cross counters. This is the new one. You can only activate this once per turn. Opponent activates a monster effect. Destroy one Battlin Boxer number exceed monster you control, and if you do, negate the activation. If you do that, destroy that monster. Then you can special summon Battlin Boxer from exceed monster from extra deck with a different name from your destroyed monster. If you do, attach this card as material. Considering this is pretty searchable, I don't see why you can't. If you want to play it, you don't have to play a bunch of it. You can just play the one copy, which is great. It's super searchable, so that's always a plus for these kind of cards. The big thing is that you have to destroy the monster in order to get the negation. So like you can't pop Lead Yoke and then trigger Lead Yoke's protection effect, which kind of sucks. So you don't get, but I understand why it's designed that way. But you can do things like, for example, like if you have a Battlin Boxer Glassjaw on the board, destroy that, and then you can get its recycle effect from the grave, which is great. Obviously, there are some new cards in this deck that do have grave effects, so I do think that this card is really good. Obviously, and then it can grab an Battlin Boxer from Exceed from your extra deck, which means you can actually grab, I believe, this big dude right here, straight from the extra deck, and you'll have and you'll be able to attach this to material. The fortunate part is that this guy will only have one material, and he needs to attach two to activate. That's not exactly optimal, but it could be. You could do things like, for example, grab a Lead Yoke from the extra deck, or grab a Nova Kaiser and then trigger its grave effect to grab something back. It works well with a lot of the XYZs that are in the archetype. The fact that you can grab something that has a little bit of protection, or you can grab a Nova Kaiser, which, if it's run over, can then grab more stuff back from the grave. I think it's a really, really strong counter grab. Objective, better than Jolt counter, in my opinion. It does only hit monster effects, so there might be some situations where Jolt counter can hit, Jolt counter can obviously hit spells and traps in the battle phase. When we're in a format where evenly matched is everywhere, that's pretty relevant. But I do think this card is pretty good. I think I don't. If you're gonna play it, it would definitely be a one of. But I think for these kind of cards, it's pretty good. But anyway, guys, it about comes to the end of the video today. Let me know what you guys think of these new Battlin boxer support cards. Do you think do you think the deck's going to be playable again? Do you think or is it just going to still be a shit tier deck? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And as always, I thank you guys for watching. This is Orstorm signing out.